Hey guys, the time has come. I think it's time that I give you guys an updated bookshelf tour. It's been about a year since my last bookshelf tour and my collection has grown quite a bit. Does anybody else remember when I just had one bookshelf behind me jam-packed with books? Look at the monster I have created! Before I dive into this bookshelf tour, I'm going to answer a few questions that I get asked quite a bit. The first one being, where did you get your bookshelves? I got my bookshelves from IKEA and I love them so much and I would highly recommend them. Do you have an organization method? I definitely don't have an organization method at all. I basically just put books where I think they look good. Why do you have duplicate copies of some books? I get this question a lot, and I know that it seems like it's a really stupid thing to have multiple copies of books because why do I need that? I really don't, but sometimes there are beautiful editions that come out of some of my favorite books and I just have to have them, and I just have a book buying problem, and I'm also a book collector. In other words, I'm a book hoarder and I just love books so much that I don't mind having duplicate copies. So yes, that's why I have some duplicate copies. And the last question, how long have you been collecting books? I've been collecting books for 3 years now. Basically ever since I joined BookTube in 2012, I've been collecting books. And my collection just seems to grow and grow and grow. And it's kind of gotten a little bit outrageous, but I don't care because I love books. So those are all the questions that I'm going to answer. Let's dive on into this bookshelf tour. Wait, before I get into this bookshelf tour, guys, just so you know, I am terrible at pronouncing names. I'm probably gonna pronounce several names wrong throughout this video, so please do not hate on me in the comments, okay? I don't mean to. Sometimes I just have trouble with pronunciations. I'm trying to get better, but I still struggle with it, so please do not hate on me in the comments, please. Please don't hate on me. Coraline by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Dave McKean. Doll Bones by Holly Black. The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. Nightmares by Jason Segel and Kristen Miller. The Boundless by Kenneth Opel. Sidekicked by John David Anderson. Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Pip Bartlett's Guide to Magical Creatures by Jackson Pierce and Maggie Stiefvater. The Vengekeep Prophecies by Brian Ferry. And the sequel, The Shadowhand Covenant. Then I have the second book, The School for Good and Evil Trilogy, A World Without Princes by Soman Shanini, and I actually lent out the first book in this trilogy and I just haven't gotten it back yet. Then I've got The Alchemist, The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel by Michael Scott, The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling, and the sequel, The Silkworm, Seeker by Arwen Ellis Dayton, Night Film by Marisha Pessel, The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, and the sequel, The Infinite Sea, I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, The Diviners by Libba Bray, Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, and Clockwork Princess, all by Cassandra Clare, The Shadowhunters Codex by Cassandra Clare and Joshua Lewis, City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass, City of Fallen Angels, City of Lost Souls, and City of Heavenly Fire, all by Cassandra Clare. And my copy of City of Heavenly Fire is signed. She's got a pretty interesting signature. It's like C-line, C-line. And here we have my Ransara shelf. First up we have Unite Me, which contains the novellas Destroy Me and Fracture Me, and also has Juliet's Journal, then Shatter Me, Unravel Me, and Ignite Me, all by Tahara Mafi. Hollow City, and my friend Whitney from Witty Novels actually got Hollow City signed for me. It says, To Jesse, hope to meet you someday, Ransom Riggs, and we've actually met, which is awesome. He's great. And yes, I do have paperback versions of these books because you can never have too many copies of your favorite books. And those were all by Ransom Riggs, and I also have this super cool Miss Peregrine's pendant that was sent to me by an Etsy store owner because they know how much I love Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, so they sent me this super cool pendant. They make necklaces, keychains. This is actually a keychain, but I just decided that I would leave it on the shelf. I will leave a link down below to the Etsy store so you guys can check it out for yourself. I like to call this shelf the overflow shelf. These are books that just don't fit anywhere else on my bookshelf. These are books of all different shapes and sizes that just haven't found their place with other books because they're all so differently shaped. First up we have Landline, and then Attachments, both by Rainbow Rowell. Then we have the Adventure Time Encyclopedia, and I used to be obsessed with Adventure Time, but I'm not super obsessed with it anymore, but this is still a cool book. Illuminate by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Off the Page by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. This title is simply Poems by Elizabeth Bishop. The Silence of Six by E.C. Myers. On Writing, a Memoir of the Craft by Stephen King. Making Ideas Happen, Overcoming the Obstacles Between Vision and Reality by Scott Belsky. This is not a writing manual. Notes for the Young Writer in the Real World by Carrie Majors. The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey, Hex Hall, Spellbound, and Demon Glass, all by Rachel Hawkins, Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life by Anne Lamott, The Basic 8 by Daniel Handler, How Not to Make a Short Film, Secrets from a Sundance Programmer by Roberta Marie Monroe, The Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson, Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, It Came from Ohio, My Life as a Writer by R.L. Stein, One Page at a Time, A Daily Creative Companion by Adam J. Kurtz, Poisoned Apples by Christine Hepperman, Horseradish by Lemony Snicket, Professor Gargoyle, The Slither Sisters, and Teacher's Pest, all by Charles Gilman. Then we have The Nest by Kenneth Opel with illustrations by John Klassen, Pop Sonnets by Eric Didrikson, The Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern, 101 Uses of a Dead Kindle by Ariane Searly, and Judith Hasty. Definitely pronounced those incorrectly. Apologies. 100 Ghost, A Gallery of Harmless Haunts by Doogie Horner. Then I have Space Ghost, The Sorceress of Kaiba 3, and this used to be my grandmother's, and I'm keeping it because it holds a lot of memories. Then I have this little Peanuts holiday box set that my aunt gave me, and it just has a bunch of little Peanuts things in it. A Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, it's The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, and it's got Be My Valentine Charlie Brown, and A Charlie Brown Christmas. Here we have part of my graphic novel collection. First we have Frankenstein, which has the original text by Mary Shelley and is illustrated by Gris Grimley. Manga Man, a graphic novel written by Barry Lyga and illustrated by Colleen Doran. The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Chris Rydell. The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by a bunch of different illustrators. First we've got P. Craig Russell, we've got Kevin Nolan, Tony Harris, Scott Hampton, Galen Showman, Jill Thompson, and Stephen B. Scott. Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. Coraline by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by P. Craig Russell. Explore the Mystery Boxes, edited by Kazu Kabushi, and there are a bunch of different artists linked to this graphic novel as well, but it doesn't have them listed on the front, so I'm not going to say them. Amulet the Stonekeeper, Amulet the Stonekeeper's Curse, Amulet the Cloud Searchers, Amulet the Last Council, and Amulet Prince of the Elves, all by Kazu Kabuchi, and I'm probably butchering his name, so apologies. City of Light, City of Dark, story by Avi, illustrations by Brian Floka. Again, butchering the name. The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil by Stephen Collins. Beautiful Creatures by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll, art by Cassandra Jean. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, the graphic novel, story by Ransom Riggs, art by Cassandra Jean. The Wrenchies by Farrell Dalrymple. American Born Chinese by Jean Luen Yang. In Real Life by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang, and Anya's Ghost by Vera Bruskel. Next up we've got my Sarah J. Maas shelf, because Sarah J. Maas is bae and she needs her own shelf. First up we've got A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is signed, and she wrote a little nice note. The Assassin's Blade, and this is also signed with a really nice note. Then I have Throne of Glass, the old cover, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. Again, all by Sarah J. Maas. And the next shelf, first up we've got Fairest, Cinder, Scarlet, and Cress, all by Marissa Meyer. Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising, all by Lee Bardugo. The Lightning Thief, The Sea of Monsters, The Titan's Curse, The Battle of the Labyrinth, and The Last Olympian, all by Rick Riordan. The Lost Hero, The Son of Neptune, The Mark of Athena, The House of Hades, and The Blood of Olympus, which cost me $13.99, as you can see, because I still haven't taken off this sticker. And these are all by Rick Riordan. The Red Pyramid, The Throne of Fire, and The Serpent's Shadow, all by Rick Riordan, again. And finally on this shelf we have The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. Jacoby by William Ritter. 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. Legend, Prodigy, and Champion, all by Marie Lu. The Young Elites by Marie Lu. The Raven Boys, The Dream Thieves, and Blue Lily, Lily Blue, all by Maggie Stiefvater. Rebel Belle and Miss Mayhem, both by Rachel Hawkins. Here we just have a random shelf of stuff that just needed to be put somewhere. First up we've got my 100,000 subscribers plaque. Thank you guys for that, by the way, for subscribing. I appreciate all of you. Then we've got some bookmarks in a little mason jar because, you know, I'm so hipster. We've got this hashtag currently reading bookmark. We've got some tea that I recently got in a subscription box, which is delicious. Then we've got my Polaroid camera right here. Then we've got this cool preview of the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children graphic novel, and it's signed by Ransom Riggs. It says, "To Jesse, very peculiarly yours." Peculiarly is such a hard word to say. Peculiarly Anyways, this is so cool. It's like a collector's thing. Then we've got a stack of books that just didn't really fit anywhere else on my bookshelf, so I just put them right here, and I'll go through them for you. Great Lies to Tell Small Kids by Andy Riley. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, a story by Richard Bach. Photographs by Russell Munson. 1,000 Mornings poems by Mary Oliver. Talking Pictures by the King Ransom Riggs. Life's a Bark, What Dogs Teach Us About Life and Love. Find Momo, Coast to Coast by Andrew Knapp. Find Momo, again by Andrew Knapp. Warren the 13th and the All-Seeing Eye, written by Tanya Del Rio and illustrated by Will Stahila. Probably pronounced that wrong. The Art of Styling Sentences. Aeolian, The Martian Girl, Part 1 by Brent Levisser. And The Imaginary World of by Carrie Smith, creator of Wreck This Journal. Then we have my comic book shelves. I'll go through some of the comics. I don't have very many single issues, but I have quite a few trades. So let's just go through these. The Amazing Spider-Man. This was a supersized 30th anniversary issue, and it's got a cool little thing going for it, but it doesn't like do anything. It's just like shiny. The Death of Clark Kent. Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man. Superman, The Man of Steel. The Uncanny X-Men. The Avengers. And it's got this super cool cover. This is a Superman single issue that I just haven't opened out of the package yet. I got this in an antique store when I was in high school, and I just never opened it. We've got Orphan Black, Witches, I Kill Giants, Pretty Deadly, Mind the Gap, Saga, Last Days of Miss Marvel, The Spire. Now moving on to the trades, we've got Gotham Academy, Volume 1, Welcome to Gotham Academy. The Wicked and the Divine, Young Avengers, Style Over Substance, Miss Marvel, No Normal, Lumberjanes, Beware the Kitten Holy, Deadly Class Volume 1, Deadly Class Volume 2, Lo, The Delirium of Hope, The Fade Out, Act 1, Alex and Ada, Volume 1, The Woods, Volume 1, The Arrow, The Woods, Volume 2, The Swarm, The Unwritten, Volume 1, Ghost World, this is actually a graphic novel by Daniel Close, Adventure Time again, Doctor Strange, Season 1, and this beautiful deluxe edition of Fables. Next shelf we have The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black, An Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir, The Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson, A Book of Spirits and Thieves, Falling Kingdoms, Rebel Spring, and Gathering Darkness, all by Morgan Rhodes, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and Days of Blood and Starlight, both by Laini Taylor. Next shelf we have The Hunger Games and Catching Fire, both by Suzanne Collins. I currently do not have Mockingjay because I lent it out and I just haven't gotten it back yet. I know a lot of you guys have been freaking out because I don't have a copy of Mockingjay on my shelf. Calm down, it's gonna be okay. The Darkest Minds and Never Fade, both by Alexander Bracken. Control by Lydia Kang. Proxy by Alex London, which is signed. Just says Jesse and Your Debt, Alex London. And then I've also got the sequel, Guardian, again by Alex London. Divergent, the shiny collector's edition of Insurgent, Allegiant, and 4, all by Veronica Roth. Me Being Me is Exactly as Insane as You Being You by Todd Hasakaloe. I can't pronounce it, sorry. The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. In the Shadow of Blackbirds by Kat Winters. Zombie and Zombie Underground, both by Darren Shan. This is a bind-up of the Spiderwick Chronicles by Tony Ditzlerletzi. Can never pronounce his name, and Holly Black. A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and Dying to Know You by Aidan Chambers. Then we've got my Victoria Schwab dedicated shelf because I love Victoria Schwab. She's one of my favorite authors. We've got The Near Witch, The Archived, which, funny fact about this book, I used to call it The Archived on my YouTube channel, and people were like, oh, buddy, that's not how you say it. It's The Archived. Never forget, never forget. The Unbound, Vicious, which if I were to recommend any book by her, I would pick up Vicious because it's freaking amazing. A Darker Shade of Magic. And then of course I have some extra copies of her books because she's one of my favorites, so why not have duplicate copies? First up, I have this Arc of A Darker Shade of Magic. Then I have this UK edition of A Darker Shade of Magic. Then I have a UK edition of Vicious, and this one is actually signed. This shelf is just a random shelf, as you can see. I don't have enough books to fill up this entire shelf, which is fine. I want to slowly get to a point of filling up this shelf. I don't want to buy just a bunch of books that I don't have any interest in. And so I recently received Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss because I'm going to be doing a video on this book. And along with this book, they sent me this cool Dr. Seuss hat. So I was like, you know what? Let's just put this here. And then I have this book by B.J. Novak, which is the book with no pictures. And yeah, that's that shelf. Next up, we have a shelf with some graphic novels and some manga, and then a biography type book. First up, we've got the graphic novel of Legend by Marie Lu, Life with Mr. Dangerous by Paul Hornscheimer. Yep. butchered that name. Blankets by Craig Thompson. I'm not going to go through all these mangas, but I will tell you what they are. This is the Bakuman series, which I'm currently reading. I've been reading it for a few years now, and I just haven't been able to like follow it consistently. Then I've got Death Note right here, which I just have the first 3 novels. Then I've got Sailor Moon, the first one. Then we've got this manga that I just never know how to pronounce. I think it's Durarararara. But I found out that this is like the 3rd arc that I have, so I can't even read this yet because I don't have the first 2. But yes. Then up here, I'll just pull these down. I have the Tiny Book of Tiny Stories, which was put together by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And then I have the sequel, The Tiny Book of Tiny Stories. Then I've got Starting Point, which is a biography on, I can't pronounce his first name, but Miyazaki, who does all the Miyazaki films, and I just find him really interesting, so I picked this up because I wanted to read more about his life and such. So yes, that's that. Next up, we've got this just random shelf. Again, I don't really have any method to organizing my bookshelf, so these are just random books put together. I kind of just needed a place to put these books because they're strangely shaped, they're really short, and this just worked best. First up, we've got Very Good Lives by J.K. Rowling, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Demigod Files by Rick Riordan, Make Good Art by Neil Gaiman, Horton's Miraculous Mechanisms by Lisa Evans, Geek's Guide to Dating by Eric Smith, Rumble, Crank, Burned, and Smoke, all by Ellen Hopkins, The Arithmetist by Brandon Sanderson, Storm Dancer by Jay Kristoff, Travels with Casey by Benoit I can't do it. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Hope and Other Luxuries by Claire B. Dunkel, and Elena Vanishing by Elena and Claire B. Dunkel. Next shelf, we've got Half Bad and Half Wild, both by Sally Green, The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rosh, and this is actually signed. It says, Jesse, let it snow, and then Sarah Rosh. Daughter of Deep Silence by Carrie Ryan, and this is also signed. It just says, Jesse, Carrie Ryan. 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstead. Let's Get Lost by Eddie Alsed. We Should Hang Out Sometime by Josh Sundquist, and this book is signed. Woo! Panic by Lauren Oliver. When You Are Here by Daisy Whitney. My True Love Gave to Me, which contains 12 holiday stories by 12 different authors, and I'm not gonna list all their names because ain't nobody got time for that. Zack and Mia by AJ Betts. Noggin by John Corey Whaley. Kiss of Broken Glass by Madeline Kuderick. Mia and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews. The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, and this book is actually signed as well. It's got a nice note on there and a signature right her. I Was Here by Gail Foreman. Vanishing Girls by Lauren Oliver. Mosquitoland by David Arnold. Faking Normal by Courtney C. Stevens. Why We Broke Up by Daniel Handler, with illustrations by Mira Kalman. The Forsaken by Lisa M. Stassi. And Quarantine The Loners by Lex Thomas. Next, we've got Winger, 100 Sideways Miles, Grasshopper Jungle, The Alex Crow, all by Andrew Smith. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga. Eleanor and Park. And I got the collector's edition for my birthday last year from Maureen Keevy with the cool fan art inside of it. Then Fangirl. And my sister got me the exclusive collector's edition of Fangirl this year for my birthday as well. And yes, those are all by Rainbow Rowell. Then I've got The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, and this is a signed copy as it states on the front of that. Got a little J scribble going on there. Next up, we have another one of my shelves where I was like, oh, I don't have enough books to fill it up with. Guess I'll just put some random stuff here. First up, we've got my Bible over here, my B-I-B-L-E. Yes, that's the word for me. Okay, I'm not gonna go throughout the whole song. But then we've got my Kindle, got my Nintendo DS. Then we've got this Peanuts devotional that I got for my birthday from my aunt. And then over here, we've got the Mystery Writers of America cookbook. I don't cook, but this is a cool concept, and someday I will cook something from this cookbook because it's awesome. Then we've got some graphic novels on display on this next shelf because, again, I didn't have enough books to fill up the shelf, which is fine. First up, we've got Nimona by Noelle Stevenson, and also this Nimona pin. And we've got Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. This next shelf, we have some of my Harry Potter books, and as you guys saw in my reorganization video, I do have 3 sets of Harry Potter books, which I know sounds completely ridiculous, but I guess I will just explain myself a little bit. I read Harry Potter when I was in high school, and I had just originally read them in the paperback editions, and then I was just shopping in an antique store one day and I saw a couple of the hardbacks, and so I was like, I wouldn't mind having those, and so I picked them up and I bought them, and then they came out with a new edition that had the castle on the spine, and I just had to have it, and my sister got it for me for Christmas, so that's why I have 3 sets, just to clear the air there, because I know a lot of people were like, why the heck do you have so many Harry Potter books? And you know what? I really don't think it's a problem because I love Harry Potter. As you can see here, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm missing 6, and I have 7. in hardcover. Also, this is probably bugging people too that this is shorter than the rest of them. I don't know why this is shorter than the rest of the books. I'm thinking that this might be a first edition and that's why it's different and that's why it's short, but I literally have no idea. So if anybody knows why this edition is shorter than the rest, let me know in the comments down below. So first up, we've got Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and then I've got the Tales of Beedle the Bard. These are all by J.K. Rowling. And then also right here, I just have this cool Hogwarts notebook that I got from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And I actually used to draw Harry Potter pictures in here. Super embarrassing. I'm not good at drawing, but I used to try to draw in here. So that's a thing that I did. Next up, we've got The Spectacular Now by Tim Tharp, Paper Towns by John Green, Where Things Come Back by John Corey Whaley, The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson, The Warrior Heir and The Wizard Heir, both by Cinda Williams-Chima, Hyperbole and a Half by Ali Brosh, and people used to make fun of me because I used to pronounce this hyperbole and a half. Looking for Alaska by John Green, Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, The Paper Magician and the Glass Magician by Charlie N. Holmberg. I'm not even gonna lie, it's hard for me to say magician after watching Miranda Sings videos. I want to say magician. Oh god. The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, Adverbs and Watch Your Mouth, both by Daniel Handler, Food, Girls, and Other Things I Can't Have by Alan Zadoff, Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie, and After Ever After, both by Jordan Sonnenblake, The Pigman by Paul Zindel, The Bling Ring by Nancy Jo Sales, and I'm just now realizing that Ready Player One is upside down, so we're gonna ignore that, but Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. We've got the novella Bind Up Delirium Stories, which includes Hannah, Annabelle, and Raven, Delirium, Pandemonium, and Requiem, all by Lauren Oliver. Next, we've got my second edition of The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This is the UK edition, and it is beautiful. The Final Empire, The Well of Ascension, and The Hero of Ages, all by Brandon Sanderson. The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. And last on this shelf is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. File under 13 Suspicious Incidents. Who Could That Be at This Hour? When Did You See Her Last? Shouldn't You Be in School? All by Lemony Snicket. Then we've got my second set of Harry Potter books, the beautiful one that makes up the castle. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And next we have another boring shelf that doesn't have much on it. We've just got this little Hufflepuff journal right here. Got a magazine that I was in, which was really random. Then we've got this composition notebook. Then we've got this Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone preview of the illustrated edition that I got at BEA, which is gonna be beautiful. And I'm probably gonna buy a whole nother set of the Harry Potter books just for these illustrated editions because they're amazing. And then this is just the box that my 100,000 subscribers plaque came in. And then this shelf is literally just full of random books, so I guess I'll go through these. First, we've got Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. We've got Night by Eli Wiesel. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. Sorry if I'm wrong. Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. Speak by Laurie House Anderson. Blank Confession by Pete Hotman. Henry Babysits by Robert Quackenbush. Bears in the Night by Stan and Jan Berenstein. Green Eggs and Ham. There's a Wocket in My Pocket. And The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. One of my favorite children's books, Corduroy by Dawn Treeman. Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. Wreck This Journal by Carrie Smith. Images of Elvis, because I used to be obsessed with Elvis when I was growing up. So this is a thing that I own. My Dog, The Paradox, A Lovable Discourse About Man's Best Friend. This book is hilarious. I randomly have the Catching Fire soundtrack on this shelf. We've got Magic Tales, and this is a book that I actually just found randomly in my house growing up, and I've just kept it ever since. I don't know who owned it. I don't know if it was my mom or my dad, but I own it now. It's mine. I've got this Harry Potter journal that I never used. Tales of a Dead King by Walter Dean Myers, and I got this from a library book sale. That's why it's got the library binding on it. Then we've got Guide to Marine Mammals of the World. I think this was a birthday gift one year because I used to be obsessed with manatees. Like, I just had this weird obsession with manatees growing up, and there's like a whole chapter on manatees in this book, so that's why I was gifted this for my birthday. But like, why was I obsessed with manatees? Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. USA Today, giant book of word search puzzles. Aw yeah. And then we've got Where the Sidewalk Ends, poems by Shel Silverstein. This section is kind of a sad section because these are books that I didn't like. I read them and I just didn't really love them. The reason I'm keeping these books though is because sometimes when I'm doing like a tag video or something, it'll ask like, what's a book that you just didn't like or whatever, and so I keep these for those reasons, which I know is kind of a stupid reason, and eventually I'll probably get rid of these books, but for now I'm just keeping them so I can have them for video stuff. But let's get started. First up, we've got Schizo by Nick Sheff, Mind Games, and Perfect Lies, both by Kirsten White, In the Shadows by Kirsten White and Jim DiBartolo, Frost by Mariana Bear, Slide by Jill Hathaway, Beautiful Creatures and Beautiful Darkness, both by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll, House of Ivy and Sorrow by Natalie Whipple, and Exit Here by Jason Myers. On the next shelf, we have Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins, Fablehaven Rise of the Evening Star, Fablehaven Grip of the Shadow Plague, Fablehaven Secrets of the Dragon Sanctuary, and Fablehaven Keys to the Demon Prison, all by Brandon Mull. Then Pathfinder by Orson Scott Card, Lux Beginnings, which is a bind-up of the first two books in the Lux series. We've got Obsidian and Onyx. Then we've got Lux Consequences. This includes both Opal and Origin, and they're both by Jennifer L. Armentrout. The Maze Runner, The Scorched Trials, and The Death Cure, all by James Dashner. Leviathan, Behemoth, and Goliath by Scott Westerfeld. If I Stay and Where She Went by Gail Foreman. The Kite Runner, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce this author's name because it's difficult. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. The Dragon's Tooth by N.D. Wilson, and this book is actually signed. Got a little signature there. And then we've got Unnatural Creatures, and this is a collection of stories selected by Neil Gaiman. A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Holes Diggin' Diggin' by Louis Sechar. Skellig by David Almond, then the unauthorized autobiography of Lemony Snicket. Then we've got Dinosaurs Before Dark, The Night at Dawn, Mummies in the Morning, and Pirates Past Noon, and these were a part of the Magic Treehouse series by Mary Pope Osborne, one of my favorite series growing up. Then we've got this Puzzling Puzzles book that was a part of the A Series of Unfortunate Events movie adaptation. They came out with some books, and this is one of the books that they came out with, and it just has a bunch of puzzles about the books and the movie. And then we've got Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Then we've got my third set of Harry Potter books, and I'm not going to go through them, but as you can see, I am missing book 5 in the paperback edition. Then I got these Harry Potter books that came with these box sets that I bought of the movies. This first one, we've got Creating the Sound and Music of Harry Potter, Creating the Characters of Harry Potter, Creating the World of Harry Potter, and finally we have Creating the Creatures of Harry Potter. Then we've got The Lover's Dictionary by David Levithan, The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, then we've got this beautiful edition of Robin Hood. And this is the last section on this bookshelf. I'm just currently freehanding this. I'll just go through these books really quickly. First up, we've got The Family Circus. This is just a bind-up of a bunch of different comics from The Family Circus. And when I was growing up, my grandmother used to clip the comics from the newspaper and let me read them. So this book is just kind of a nostalgic thing for me. Then I have this photographic history of the Beatles because I love the Beatles. Then I have this Peanuts Treasury book, which just holds a bunch of history and different comics from the Peanuts. And again, this is another comic that my grandmother used to clip from the newspaper and would let me read. So again, it has that nostalgic factor to it. Then I have this Harry Potter Hogwarts and Beyond poster book. Then I have this Harry Potter film wizardry book, which just has a bunch of behind the scenes on the film. It's actually a really beautiful book on the inside. Then I have the Spider-Man Vault book, and it's really cool. It's basically just a bunch of history on Spider-Man, and I love it. It's awesome. And now we've got these shelves that are over my bed, and I know that a lot of people have been concerned about me having bookshelves over my head while I sleep at night, and don't worry guys, I still have yet to have a book fall on me in the middle of the night, so I have survived and I will survive. I'm gonna be okay. So these shelves currently hold some of my advanced reader copies of books that I have, and then also some picture books, and then also my A Series of Unfortunate Events collection over there. Up here, I just have this little Rotten to the Core stress ball from the Isle of the Lost. It was just merch that was sent with the ARC. Then I've got The Isle of the Lost by Melissa De La Cruz, Kill the Boy Band by Goldie Moldavsky, Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone, Progeny of Gods by Jeffrey Storm, and he actually doesn't have a title on this cover, which is really interesting. It's only on the side of the book, which is super cool. Then we've got Passenger by Alexander Bracken, and this is signed. Just says, for Jesse, history is only the beginning, Alexander Bracken. Then I've got Zeros by Scott Westerfeld, and also Margot Lanigan and Deborah Biancotti. Then I've got The Marvels by Brian Selznick. Then I've got this Armada patch that was sent to me with the book. And I've got this Arc of the Iron Trial, which doesn't really have a cover. It's like in here, it's really weird. Landline, and it's signed by Rainbow Rowell. It says, Jesse, call me maybe. Rainbow. Ooh. Armada by Ernest Cline. Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, and this is also signed. The Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, The Darkest Part of the Forest, and this is also signed by Holly Black. An Ember in the Ashes by Sabah Tahir. Gloria O'Brien's History of the Future by A.S. King, and this is signed. Black Widow, Forever Red by Margaret Stoll. And this is also signed. It says, Girls Are Heroes, Not Sidekicks. Margaret Stoll. Black Ice by Becca Fitzpatrick. Ice Like Fire by Sarah Rash. Soundless by Rochelle Mead, and this is also signed. A Madness So Discreet by Mindy McGinnis. Then I have this ridiculously beautiful ARC edition of Red Queen that was sent to me, and it is just beautiful. Like, I love the packaging for this. I don't understand why they do packaging for this, but it's still really beautiful. And there's the book, Red Queen. Fans of the Impossible Life by Kate Skelsa. Dreamland by Robert L. Anderson. Curiosity House, The Shrunken Head by Lauren Oliver and H.C. Chester. And The Copper Gauntlet by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare, and this is actually the sequel to The Iron Trial. Then at the end of the shelf I have this picture book, House Held Up by Trees by Ted Kuser, illustrated by John Klassen. And John Klassen is actually one of my favorite illustrators, so I'm trying to collect all of his picture books, but I only currently have like 2 or 3 of his books, but I want to have all of them because they're all beautiful and I love his art style. Then up here I have the fantastic flying books of Mr. Morris Lesmore by William Joyce. Then I've got The Dark by Lemony Snicket, illustrated by John Klassen. And under that I have the Beatrice Letters by Lemony Snicket. And guys, I don't have it in me to go over there and bring down all these A Series of Unfortunate Events books because there's so many of them and I don't want to bring them down. But right back there is my A Series of Unfortunate Events collection. I have all 13 books, and then I have the Unauthorized Autobiography of Lemony Snicket in hardcover edition, and then I've got the blank book, which is just like a journal from the series. And then this right here is an illustration by Brett Hellquist, who is the artist of the series. He did all the covers and he did the illustrations throughout the books, and I am obsessed with his art. He has an Etsy store, and that's where I bought that, so I will leave that down below if you guys are interested in that. So that was my bookshelf tour. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you liked seeing all the books on my shelves. I'm not going to tell you guys the different social medias that I'm on if you guys want to follow me all over the internet. You can also subscribe to the channel, which would be awesome, but you can follow me on Twitter at jessethereader, Snapchat at jessethereader, Instagram at jessethereader, Tumblr at jessethereader, and goodreads.com/jessethereader. If you guys want to check me out on other social medias, those are my social medias. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you soon with a new video. Later. Me Being Me is Exactly as Insane as You Being You by Todd Hasakaloli. Oh my gosh. This book is upside down. How did that even happen? Ah! Dropped a book. Oh no. Jam cracked.